had a bad car wreck and he couldn't drive. And he said he just needs a driver till Christmas. He said, why don't you do it for him? And I looked at him and I said, oh my gosh. I said, I can't drive a bus. And he said, why, you can? He said, you can drive the truck. I said, well, driving Wayman's truck and driving a bus, two different things. He said, think about it. So I thought about it a day or two, and so I said to Wayman, I said, do you think that I could drive a bus? And so he said, why don't you go down and talk to Mr. Cox, you know, his daddy, Clark Cox. So I went down, and he said, let's go over to South to the parking lot to see, you know, what you think. So we went over, and I would look at this bus, and I'd think, oh my goodness, look how long this bus is. And he said, now don't think about the length of it, just think about your outside mirrors, you know. And so that's what, I mean, you have to have your outside mirrors set. And when you get in here and you look in those outside mirrors, you know, it doesn't look long at all. It just looks like you're driving a truck. So I told him, I said, well, this is not bad at all. So he said, we'll come back tomorrow night. So I went back the next night, and he said, now let's go on the route. So at that time, the route was Hemlock, basically what it is now, was Hemlock Park Drive, Hemlock Park Road. Then I went out to Ingalls, you know, went around on the streets. Well, when we got out to the end of Hemlock Park Drive, it was cul-de-sac, and I said, well, where in the world do we turn around? And he told me, he said, just nose down in that driveway. And I looked, and I said, but that's the lake. He said, it's okay. But see, my bus was stick shift.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just went down in there, put it in reverse, you know, just come right back out there. And I said, well, that wasn't bad at all. But now today, if I had to do that today, I'd probably sit there and look at it and think, okay, I believe I can. But see, I was young then, didn't think nothing about it. So he told me, he said, now, you know, school's going to be starting in a few days. He said, you think you can do it? And I said, yeah, I can do it. And he says, well, if you know you can do it, he said, then I won't worry. I said, well, yeah, I can do it. So I just started driving. Well, Christmas came. Christmas break was over with, and the next day school started. And I said to Wayman, I said, you know, I don't know if I'm supposed to drive that bus tomorrow or not. I said, is that gentleman coming back? And he said, well, you better be calling. So I called him, and I said, do I have a job? I said, am I going to drive the bus? And he said, well, I reckon you are. He said, who do you think's going to drive it? And I said, well, you said that gentleman would be back. And he said, I've not heard nothing from him lately. So I've been driving ever since. Started out as 6 months, and I said I would have never dreamed. I didn't have a dream that I, you know, would ever do anything like that. That wasn't my goal in life. But see, I worked at Eastman, you know, till Christy was born. Then I didn't work no more till Kelly was born. But it met my need. Wayman worked shift work. And it met my need because I was with them, you know, at Christmas, spring break, summer, and I didn't have to worry about a babysitter. So it, you know, it worked out real well.
What over 38 years, you don't just drive the bus to school and back, but you go on field trips?
Oh yeah, we go on field trips. That's the good part about it. Yeah, like we go to Creation Zoo, we go to Bright Zoo, we go to Appalachian Taverns. You know, they go down in the cave, they pan, you know, for stones, and also there's Cooper's Mines. They go there, and we go to Dollywood. That's what got me going into Dollywood. Was I think I had been driving 3 or 4 years. They said that you couldn't go to Dollywood until you were an experienced driver. So I had a friend that was driving, and I asked her, I said, have you ever been to Dollywood? And she said, no. I said, well, I'm going to go to Dollywood. She said, okay, we'll see what we could do. So we got a trip to Dollywood, and we were so excited. I hadn't been to Dollywood, I don't guess since I don't know what year it opened, but I had been there when it was Silver Dollar City. And I don't know if I had taken the girls back down there or not. But going to Dollywood was the highlight of the spring trip. You know, also I have gone to the Music Mansion several times. And
what about athletic events? Do you drive anybody around?
Okay, yes, I drove for you know, Wayman. We both have drove for South High School and for Central. We drove the band for Central for several years. Of course, we drove with South for South. First of all, Costa Jarris was the first band director I worked with, and that was when Christy was in the band. She was in the color guard, and we were with him those 4 years. Then we were with Chris at Central. I don't know how many years we were with him. This last this last fall we finished up with him. We just drive in the fall. Wayman drives, for the boys. I don't drive the boys, but I do enjoy the band. We've been on several trips with the band, like to Duncan, South Carolina, band competition. We have, now Wayman has driven them farther away. He has been, I think one year we went to Atlanta. Yeah, we did. Of course, we had to spend the night. They were on competition down there. Even DB was down there. Other schools were down there. When you go on competition, we used to go to Wake Forest with Mr. Costa Jarris.
So why have you decided to finally retire?
Because the kids keep saying, Miss Phyllis, how old are you? How long have you been driving this bus? But, I just feel like I'm old enough to retire, Johnny.
Well, speaking of the kids, over the years, I guess you've had kids on here all through. You've had them the whole time they were...
Oh, yeah. I've had 2 generations with one family. I drove the daddy first, and then he had 2 little girls, and I saw them at Rock Springs one day with him. And I thought, oh my gosh, I drove your daddy. He saw me and he came running to me and he hugged me and he said, you don't remember me, do you, Phyllis? And I looked at him and I thought, do I? And I said, yes, I do. I remember your voice. But I said, you want me to tell you what I remember about you? I said, you mooned me one day when I let you off. And I said, I shut my finger at you right like that. And I said, you'll be sorry you did that. I will forget that. But I've gone through several principals, at Rock Springs and here. Made a lot of friends, a lot of teacher friends and everything. And heard a lot of amazing stories. Like when the kids get on the bus, I hear what's on their mind that morning. And I said one of the best stories was this little girl got on. She lived on Hemlock Park Road. And she said, Bill said, guess what happened at my house this weekend? And I thought, do I dare guess? And I said, what, honey? And she said, my mom got married and my cat had kittens. And she was so excited to tell me that. I also have a young man that lived down on Hemlock Park Road. He made a doctor and he's now at Vanderbilt. And I see his family from time to time. And you think back, he told me one day he was going to Duke. And he said, I want to be a doctor. And I said, well, I hope so. Because, see, I just had him through 8th grade. But I run into his parents from time to time. But it's interesting, to run into them and see, what they decided to do once they finished high school, in college, and all like that. So